Hello, welcome to Invest. We're talking about investing, finance, and professional development. So I'm going to talk about Tesla and NIO. I've been getting some questions in the comments section, and I have a relatively free day today. It's actually my dad's and my sister's birthday, so I actually blocked out my whole calendar today. So no meetings. So I'm just going to go through some of the investments in my portfolio. Still working on my Patreon. I'm a very much of a perfectionist. I have a really high standard for myself. So when I'm releasing something, I want to make sure that I am attacking it from all angles to make sure that you guys have something that is really substantive as a product. Especially if you guys are going to be paying for it, I want to make sure that's something that you can use, find intuitive, productive, and at the same time interactive, right? That can, and also like it's critical, especially when we're dealing with financial assets and investment opportunities. So I have to make sure that I have the highest level of confidence before I release it publicly. So with respect to the recording time of 12:38 p.m. on Eastern Time, Tesla is currently trading around $942, down about 1.70% so far. You could see that we are hovering around the consolidation level, basically at the current level right now. But we could see clearly we have a gap that needs to be filled. So for Tesla to actually go down a little bit further, I think at the bare minimum, the lowest would be somewhere around like the 900s, like the 892, which is technically the next resistance level. I think 911 first and then the 892. But right now, it's not a terrible level to incur risk because we're relatively oversold right now. And again, right, the sell-off that we've been experiencing so far is because Elon has to take some of a haircut around his equity holding to pay tax, right? He has a lot of tax to be paid. And he did say something with respect to a public Twitter post recently. They has to liquidate about $10 billion to pay tax because of the new legislation around the tax reform. So something that he has to do is not because of like the lack of fundamentals with respect to Tesla, but obviously when you are selling a sizable amount and you're publicly announcing it and people are watching you, it can have some type of a negative tone among the market, subsequently drive the sell that we're seeing right now. But I would say it's relatively okay, flat right now. So in terms of risk level, I think the 942 the current level right now is not terrible, but we do have a gap, so be aware that the bottom technically could be just at the hair level around 900 from here. And with respect to NIO, this is just a absolutely disastrous picture at the moment. We have cracked through multiple resistance level where the consolidation level that was really substantive around like 43. We broke through 43, and that the next level was technically somewhere around like the 40, which is a flat number. But it's not a substantive. A real substantive level is somewhere around like 38.75. And you could see clearly we broke through that. And the reason is because of the sector rotations, people fleeing away from the high growth stocks onto more safe haven stocks because of the inflationary pressure. Another news around the Chinese delisting that we've been listening in so far. With respect to supply shortage on the chip shortage that we have been experiencing so far, and NIO is a EV company that needs the chip for you to make that car an EV vehicle to begin with, right? So with that shortage, subsequently hinder the supply, and when there's a shortage, that will subsequently increase the price for these chips, right? In a market demand perspective, and that will cut into the margin, and also on top of the fact that because of the fact that NIO have multiple other competition with Xpeng, with Fisker even is popping up in the U.S. And Tesla obviously is the mother lord of all EV, right? So it's just been under a lot of pressure at the moment. So where would we be going to as the next level? And also, sorry, also I missed one more factor with respect to Omicron, which is also hindering just the entire market as a whole, right? So these are, I think I just named like 6 to 7 negative affectation that's driving the sell-off, which is the reason why we're selling off right now. So the 34 was definitely a critical level that we broke, right? It was unfortunate, but where will we going as the next level, right? I think ideally we are at the current level of consolidation. The reason we're testing around 2950 is because we tested that way back in basically October 16, 2020. So almost like 2 years ago, well, a year and a half ago almost, right? And do we see a further sell off? I would say not really, because of the fact with the 29 out of 70 right now, very oversold. So I think NIO is at the bottom right now. Yeah, and based on historical experience, I think yeah, we are pretty much at the bottom right now for NIO. So um, wouldn't be that wouldn't be very logical for you to actually sell right now. I'll just hold. I'm down just as you are, right? My cost average about like 30, low 30 ish, so I'm actually down as well. But I do have like 8,000 shares, so if you're down by like 9%, just do the math how much I'm down right now. But it's a paper loss. There's nothing logical about this. Like there's nothing fundamentally changed about NIO. I think NIO someday is going to be around like $60 stocks all over again, and then subsequently like 5 years out should be somewhere around like the 200s. I wouldn't be surprised just based on like pure discount cash flow analysis. I actually have done a financial model projecting out the growth of NIO, and there's still a lot of untapped space with respect to its Norway expansion, European expansion, obviously U.S. expansion, Chinese expansion, right? A lot of untapped market, and I think as the COVID subsides, as the EV evolutions further cultivates, I think it's just going to be a matter of supply and demand that will subsequently translate into a higher top line revenue and then subsequently layer down into a higher upsides on the adjusted EBITDA, which is the earnings perspective. So I feel optimistic about this, and I think these are the times where you should be thinking about incurring risk, despite how uncertain it is. Right, today is just an uncertain market driving this negative tone among the market, which translates into this corrections that we're seeing for NIO. So nothing really too concerning. And let's just talk about BABA, which is my one of my biggest holding that I have right now. I think BABA is a great buy around like the 110, and I think we're like not terrible at the moment, 34 out of 70. So I think I like this too. You know, I think right now the sell-off is really because of the potential delisting and obviously with some of the frictions that Jack Ma, which is the founder of Alibaba, and the executive team have, towards the Chinese government. So, but I don't think Baba is actually gonna go anywhere. That is, and in terms of like financial comparable perspective, like if you compare Alibaba to Amazon, Alibaba is actually outgrowing Amazon, and I would say Alibaba is actually a highly undervalued stock right now. And I think this stock should technically be 2x from here. That's more of a fair valuation. I think 180 to $210 for Alibaba makes more sense than 119. But again, people are not really using logics to invest. They mostly just fear. And that's the beautiful thing about stock market. It's like a popularity contest, right? So there's a lot of also press constraints and restrictions around talking positively about Alibaba as well coming from China because of the restrictions from obviously China. So that's something that if you can see through it, looking at financial analysis, looking at the macro trajectory going forward, we know that Alibaba is highly undervalued at the moment. Coinbase, I think we are at the bottom technically, and I think it's really correlating with the overall crypto market. We're selling off because Bitcoin and Ethereum are selling off as well. I think right now it's at a consolidated level. That's the reason why we're kind of hovering. I think in the risk versus reward ratio perspective, I think it's relatively good. I think the bottom's technically, if you really think about the bottom, I think it's really right now. I think the lowest we could get to like 240 really, because with the 33 out of 70, we're way below oversold. So I think across the market, these are the times for you to really roll up your sleeves and start buying now. I think today is just another day of just fear mongering from high uncertainty. That's really the driver of it. So that's pretty much it on the stocks front. And these are just stocks that I talk about because these are questions that people have been asking me. And in the Patreon thing, I will actually incorporate this into a breakdown of the analysis of what are the risk levels for your $2 cost average. How do you think about the management level for each stocks that we'll be doing? So you can imagine how much of a homework I have to do on a daily basis and research I have to do on a daily basis, and also with my personality being just a perfectionist as a whole, it makes it a more of a long durated process than expected. All right. Appreciate it for your patience, and let me know if you have questions, and stay tuned for to come up. Take care. Bye.